Every MotoGP rider can have a bad weekend. Yes, even Marc Marquez. And MotoGP fans trying to predict what's going to happen next can also have a bad weekend. Even me. Welcome back to another edition of I Told You So Tuesday, where we see how my pre-race predictions held up to the actual race results. But before we dig in, if you could please like, follow, share, subscribe, mash all the buttons so you get all the MotoGP goodness you can possibly imagine. And we love the comments, keep them coming. That is why we're here, and we basically respond to pretty much all of them. And if we haven't responded to you, come call us out on it. All right, anyway, here we go. Austria Grand Prix. How did our predictions do? And this is all, again, based on my fantasy team lineup. I made a little bit of a hash of it this week, but I can tell you I told you so a couple times, but there are really no great revelations there, right? I kept Marc Marquez on my gold team, top tier rider, duh. And he had a fantastic weekend at a track Ducati loves. And he's in amazing form. Duh. It's not much of an I told you so to have him on my gold team. I'm out of boosts. I would have boosted him if I could, but there we go. I'm gonna get the points. So, Marc Marquez, thank you for giving me a big fat welcomed I told you so. Now, my other slightly smaller I told you so is that I handed my Aprilia team away, traded them away this week for factory KTM. Now, it's not a huge I told you so because, as we know, Marco Bezzecchi went on to have a very, very good weekend. Jorge Martin did not have a very good weekend, still getting up to speed. But the KTMs didn't do all that bad. I mean, better than we've seen most weeks. We had Pedro Acosta on a sprint podium, fourth in the Grand Prix, and then we had Brad Binder for the first time all season long showing some signs of life. I think it was 5th place in the sprint, 7th in the Grand Prix. Not too bad for Brad Binder, so I can't be mad at making that trade. Now, here's where all my success disappears for the week, because I had Marco Bezzecchi on my fantasy team coming out of Brno, and it was a stroke of genius. But he looked good in Brno. Even on Friday practice, I thought, man, this is a really good move to make. I'm going to keep Bezzecchi there. His value is going to go up. He's riding really well. But the Red Bull Ring in Austria is not known to be an Aprilia circuit. It is not a fast and flowing layout. It is very stop and go. It favors the Ducatis and the KTMs, even the Hondas, more than it should favor the Aprilia and certainly the Yamaha. And after Bez was 18th in practice on Friday, I had no faith in this team. And I get 2 trades a week. So what do? I trade away the Aprilia team, and I traded away Marco Bezzecchi. But oh no, it gets worse, because who did I trade Marco Bezzecchi for? Pecco Bagnaia. Now, before you jump all over me, yes, I know Pecco's had a really rough season, but this is the Red Bull Ring we're talking about. This is a track he wins at. This is a track Ducati wins at. They own the Red Bull Ring. I mean, I know KTM owns it, but Ducati has owned the Red Bull Ring. I mean, at worst, even if he's not winning the race, I already have Marc Marquez. I already have the points there. What's the worst that could happen to Pecco this weekend? Bez just felt like he was going to give me a 0 from his 18th performance on Friday. Could he have gotten better from Saturday? Sure. Was he going to get pole position? Never. That's why they race the races. That's why we don't race on paper, folks. That is why they put the bikes on the track. Because Bez had maybe the best weekend of his career at a track that he doesn't particularly like, and the Aprilia has never gone well at. Somehow this guy puts it on pole, puts it on the podium, competes with Marc Marquez in the main Grand Prix. He had a lot of fight in him this weekend, and I didn't see it coming, so I don't get to say I told you so whatsoever. I mean, it was a massive blunder taking this guy off my fantasy team. I can excuse it all I want. I can say, you know what, the analytics and the history and all this stuff. But when it came to just straight up racing, Bezzecchi came to freaking play. I guess it's karma. I talked a lot of crap about the Aprilia, how they're not ready for the big dance, they're not ready to fight for a championship, that I thought Jorge Martin maybe was seeing exactly what I was seeing over there, and he was looking for the door for all the right reasons. It seems like that is all coming back to haunt me, and it all paid me a visit this very weekend. And so as much as I was upset about that, I could kind of justify it to myself. That wasn't a bad decision. looking at it, Aprilia, yeah, they're not going to score me a lot of points as a team, and Bezecchi's not going to score me a lot of points as a racer, so I have to go with these other two guys, and that's what really doubly hurts. Because if I wouldn't have made those Aprilia moves, I would have moved my next two riders off my team, which were Alex Marquez, who was my other top tier rider next to his brother Mark. We all know this week Alex had a long lap penalty going into the race, so he wasn't going to finish at the front of the Grand Prix. And then we had Fabio Quartararo, which, again, like the Aprilia, didn't expect much out of the Yamaha. And when we can say we didn't expect much out of the Yamaha, we didn't get much out of the Yamaha. Fabio was nowhere all weekend long. The best Yamaha finishes 15th. He scores 1 point for me. I think he scored 2 points because he moved up from 18th on the grid in the race or whatever the hell. Doesn't matter. It's just basically a big fat zero in my fantasy league. Not the best result for Fabio or Yamaha. There's nothing to take from this weekend. I think Fabio said afterwards, I went into this weekend and I came out of this weekend without learning a damn thing. And then with Alex Marquez, he scores me good points in the sprint, but that's not that much. 9 points, I think, you get from a sprint second place. And then obviously he has to do that 3-second long lap penalty, which cost him about that much time, put him mid-pack, and he could never really move up from that 10th place. And so he scores me like a whopping 6 points for that. So I knew I wasn't going to get much out of them, but I was looking at that Aprilia and going, I just don't trust them, and got rid of them because I'm a big dummy. There I said it. For all the haters out there who are pointing at me and laughing and say, you don't know anything you're talking about. Sometimes I don't. But who does? You want to tell me? Come in the comments. You want to tell me that you saw Bez having the weekend he had? Even if you thought that coming out of the summer break, if you're like, oh man, Bez is going to have a great weekend. When you looked at Friday results and he was 18th and he was nowhere and he was basically like completely just lost, you're telling me you were still thinking he was getting on the podium? Pole position? Liars, the lot of you. No one saw this coming. Maybe Marco Bezzecchi, but I think even looking from him, he's saying, hey, where we were on Friday, I was not expecting much out of this weekend. It was a pleasant surprise. And he even said on Sunday, third place right now feels like a win. Yes, would the victory have been nice? Would have been awesome to beat Ducati at a track they are so strong at. It would have been amazing. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the contenders message sent to the rest of the paddock. But a third place had to feel pretty much like a victory. So I didn't get that much of a chance to tell anybody I told you so. And the ones that I did get right, what, am I going to take credit from Marc Marquez winning a race? Yay me. Well, that's it for this edition of I Told You So Tuesday. Don't forget, we are right back to racing this next weekend in Hungary, so there'll be another Monday morning MotoGP and I Told You So Tuesday next week. And then stay tuned, following all that stuff for all the other dumb stuff I do along the way. Thank you so much for watching.